today we're going to the last two suttas in volume 46, ST 46, 23 and 24, two related suttas about unity in the Sangha. This volume is about teaching and learning, so the Sangha is a very important environment or scenario for learning. Now in Greek drama there is a very interesting device, especially in a tragedy where things seem not to work out, things just seem to come to an end, some great tragedy, impending tragedy is going to happen. So of course the audience wouldn't like that, it would be very sad to see the hero die and so on. So at that very crucial moment, something interesting happens. There's a sudden change of event. Usually in this kind of drama, the stage technologies or technicians, you can call them that if you like, they will winch down a kind of a god. One of the Greek gods will come down, he's kind of winched down, and he will go down, appear on stage, and the whole situation will change. And that is called a deus ex machina, the god out of the machine. Okay, so in other words, when we're in serious trouble, there is this being. It can be a god, it can be some kind person, appears and change the whole situation. Now we see that theme in this sutta, and that deus is, of course, the word deus means god. We have this Brahma, Maha-Brahma, and to be more exact, his name is Sahampati. Brahma, Sahampati. He is this one Brahma who is very close to the Buddha. He is said to be a non-returner, by the way, quite a high-ranking in terms of sainthood. He's a first jhana Brahma, so he is very often coming down to earth somehow to either intercede or to do something important. His presence marks a kind of a very important turning point in the story of the Buddha. For example, we know Mara appears to invite the Buddha to give the teaching. Right? We are told that the Buddha hesitated, and so Brahma appears and invites the Buddha to teach the Dharma for the sake of the world. So Brahma is like a kind of a very concerned parent. So in Buddhism, the early Buddhists conceive of this great God as someone very compassionate, someone who not always, someone who is often helpless when it comes to the world. So when the Buddha appears, he's very happy and he makes sure the Buddha teaches the Dharma. And of course, if Brahma is the embodiment or archetype of goodness, the father figure, Mara, of course, would be the tempter on the other side in terms of, what shall we say, religious personification. But there is another personification which we need to consider in our study of these two suttas today, that is a social archetype of someone who's really bad, and that is Devadatta. So we have this another character in our study today. So anyway, coming back to Brahma, when Brahma appears to the Buddha, it is always to mark something which is important, it's going to happen in this world. It's as if Brahma does not appear, something good will not happen, will not occur. So, for example, there was another sutta called the Chatuma Sutta, where a group of monks or young monks who come to see the Buddha, led by Sariputta, and these young monks are so excited to meet the Buddha, and they were chatting and talking. And they were very noisy, basically. So the Buddha was kind of surprised at their noisiness and told Ananda, what's that? It sounds like a fish market. And after admonishing the monks, he banished them and says, well, you better go and do something. So they were told to go away. In other words, they were not allowed to see the Buddha. The Buddha himself is depicted as doing this. In fact, the story is shown to be so severe that it is as if the monks were never allowed to come back. That's the impression we get. So the Sakyas came to appeal to the Buddha to forgive the monks, and Brahma also is said to come down to to appeal to the Buddha to forgive the monks. So here again we have this another situation, not as serious as the first teaching and today's sutta, but the appearance of Brahma again is like a marker. It shows that this event is very important in the spiritual sense, in the worldly sense, that it's very important for monks to know how to be peaceful and not to behave like they people. So we have the Brahma acting like a kind of someone who kind of highlights the situation to show that this is a very important event in terms of the Vinaya. So now we come to this sutta. We have Brahma appearing again here. It's a very short sutta. Brahma appears and tells the Buddha of the severity of Devadatta's action. What did Devadatta do? According to the Vinaya, the Devadatta, when the Buddha was very old, Devadatta caused a split in the Sangha. How did he cause this split? He, according to the Theravada, the traditional Theravada depiction is to present Devadatta as someone ambitious. He was the Buddha's cousin, and he apparently felt that the Buddha was too old to lead the Sangha, so he told the Buddha, why don't you retire? Basically, that's what he's saying, and let him take over the reins of governing the Sangha, so to speak. Of course, there's a problem here, because this story is to remind us that no one really governs the Sangha. It's not a governing of the Sangha. The Sangha is self-governing, so to speak. In other words, there is this Dharma, which acts as a kind of constitution, and this Dharma will set things right. Of course, also the Vinaya, which kind of tells the monks what to do, what not to do. So we have the Dharma and the Vinaya always present there, as long as the monks and the nuns are keen in their renunciation. So what the Buddha has done here is that he, of course in sociology we say he rationalizes the whole situation. In other words, instead of making himself as the final authority, because he knows that if he were to die and there were no leader, then the Sangha will break up, as in the case of other ancient Buddhas of the past. So what our Buddha did was he systematized the Dharma, the suttas and so on, and of course the Vinaya also. So these two, in other words, the Dharma and the Vinaya, acts as the person of the Buddha. And to this day, the Theravada Sangha at least are able to kind of work harmoniously using these twin aspects of the teaching, the Dharma and the Vinaya. So, in other words, there is no one really in charge of the Sangha like a government. Of course, there is a system of respect. The respect's always for the one who's senior, and the senior-most in the community would be usually the abbot. So there is that kind of respect and orderliness in the order, and that definitely is there. But it is not a power situation. So that was what it was meant to be anyway. So Devadatta has this idea that it is a power situation. So he felt that in that power pyramid he wants to be at the top. So what the Buddha is saying is he doesn't want such a thing. Of course, Devadatta was not too happy, and according to the Theravada tradition, he did all kinds of tricks, all kinds of measures to depose the Buddha. For example, it is said he even tried to kill the Buddha. When he sent assassins, they failed to kill the Buddha. The Buddha converted them and they became stream winners. Then Devadatta himself decided to kill the Buddha himself. But of course, according to tradition, you can't kill the Buddha. His karma will just go on until he dies, that's all. So, what Devadatta did next, according to the story, is that this time he tried some subterfuge. So he presented the Buddha with a set of strict rules. Among them are rules like he tells the Buddha, why don't you make an order that all monks from now on must live in the forest. They should be forest monks. No living near the city and near the villages. Okay, those days there were never monasteries in the village or in the city. It's always nearby. All right, so there's no such thing as an urban monastery. So, in other words, they were living in communities. Some communities can be very large, like Jetavana. So here what Devadatta is saying, the monks should live by themselves under trees alone, like the Buddha did in the early days. Rule number 2, the monks should not take any fish or meat. They have to be vegetarians. And so on and so forth, strict rules like that, right? So the Buddha, Devadatta knew the Buddha wouldn't accept such strictures. So the Buddha rightly replies, well, it's up to the monks. They want to follow these rules. These rules need not be so strict. It's not necessary. Devadatta knew the Buddha would reply this way, so Devadatta just said, well, look, he tells some younger monks, new monks, the Buddha is not strict at all. So here we see a very interesting struggle between a group which are ultra-conservative and the Buddha, who's a kind of liberal person, if you like. So, of course, there were certain monks who followed Devadatta. They said about 500 of them followed him. And these young, enthusiastic, idealistic monks, if you like, and they went away. And so the schism was, the moment they went away and recited the Patimokkha by themselves, the Sangha was split, in other words. So it is this kind of occasion that this story, the verse here was spoken. Okay, so let's look at a verse that reflects this kind of rather sad and difficult situation. The situation is so bad here. We have Brahma coming down from his heaven and telling the Buddha the significance of this occasion. So here again we see Brahma playing the role of someone who is highlighting the crisis, the importance of understanding the significance of this kind of situation. Okay, let's look at the sutta. This is from Samyutta 6.12, chapter 6, sutta 12. Thus have I heard, at one time the Blessed One was staying on Mount Vulture Peak outside Rajagaha, not long after Devadatta had left. Notice, not long after Devadatta had left. In other words, he left with the 500 monks and went on his own. Now late in the night, this will be about 10 to 2 a.m. That's the time the Devas will come to see the Buddha according to tradition. Now late in the night, Brahma Sahampati of exceeding beauty, lighting up the whole of Mount Vulture Peak, approached the Blessed One. Having approached the Blessed One, he saluted him and sat at one side. Stood at one side rather. Now Devas tend to do this. When they see the Buddha, they tend to stand, not too near, not too far away either, and kind of speak to the Buddha, whereas humans would sit down. The Buddha sitting, they would sit too. Standing thus at one side, Brahma Sahampati uttered this verse before the Blessed One in reference to Devadatta. Okay, so he's reflecting the severity of the situation. He says, Palang we kadaling hanti, palang welung, palang malang, sakaro ka purisang hanti, gapo asataring yata. Just as the fruit destroys the plantain plant, so too is fruit the bamboo, its fruit the reed. Honor destroys the false person, just as the womb destroys the she-mule. This verse is full of rich similes, which are well known to the ancient Indians, maybe even the modern Indians. A plantain tree, a banana tree even. We know very well, when you have a banana plant, when it grows big, it flowers and it fruits. And once the bananas are out, you cut the banana, you also cut down the tree. The tree also is destroyed because the tree will not fruit again. But when you cut the tree down at the stump, new shoots will grow. Basically here the tree dies. So the idea here is someone who gains something loses everything. Next, you have the bamboo. Again, bamboo shoots are cut off and eaten, so the normal bamboo will grow. And the reeds also are cut near the root and used to make ropes and so on. And what's interesting here is a very painful simile. It's the last one. A she-mule that mates with a horse. Now, when the she-mule mates with a horse, she will bear what they call foal. But this foal becomes so big that she's not able to deliver this foal. And people around will know this because this she-mule will be suffering, making lots of noises, stamping the ground, scratching the ground with the hoof. So she cannot deliver because the baby is too big. So they will tie up this she-mule spread eagle and cut open the belly, and this foal is born. And of course, those days they are not good in medical operation. So the she-mule dies. So basically here the imagery shows that honor, gain and praises destroys a monk. And we see this theme very often in the suttas. For example, in the Dhammapada 164, we have this saying. You can look at page 185, the previous page. The Dhammapada 164, the Buddha says, "The one lacking wisdom who, on account of wrong view, scorns the teaching or dispensation of the Arahats, the noble ones who live the Dharma, bears fruit to his own destruction like a bamboo shoot." So you can see the bamboo shoot is cut off and used by people. And so here the Buddha is warning about when monks especially misunderstand the nature of the Sangha, misunderstand the nature of renunciation, they tend to lose a lot. And this is highlighted in the next sutta, or closing sutta, called the Bindi Sutta. This is from S17.31, Samyutta chapter 17, Sutta 31. This is also called the Chindi Sutta. Chindi and Bindi in Pali, they mean the same thing. It means what is cut, severed. Okay. In this case, of course, the meaning is that Devadatta is cut off from the rest of the Sangha because of his wrong actions. Okay, the sutta goes like this. The Buddha was staying at Savatthi, and then he said, "Bhikshus, dreadful are gain, honor, and praise, bitter, vile, and obstruction to attaining the unsurpassed security from the yoke." Right, so basically this means gain, honor and praise are not useful to a monk. It's going to be a hindrance for him if he's working for renunciation towards nirvana. Mentally overwhelmed and obsessed with pain, with gain, honor and praise, bhikshus, Devadatta brought schism into the Sangha. So dreadful bhikshus are gain, honor and praise, bitter and vile, that it is an obstruction to the attaining of the unsurpassed security from the yoke. Unsurpassed security from the yoke means attaining of nirvana, or the process of sainthood towards nirvana. It's very difficult for a monk who's involved with the world, gaining lots of things, worldly things, getting honors from kings and from powerful people, and those who are monks and nuns looking for praise, in other words, looking for some kind of acceptance from the laity and so on. This kind of practitioners have difficulty attaining sainthood and awakening. That's the message here. Therefore, bhikshus, you should train yourself thus. We will abandon gain, honor and praise that have arisen. We shall not let the arisen gain, honor and praise remain to overwhelm our minds. Thus, bhikshus, you should train yourselves. So that's the advice Buddha gave in the sutta. Of course, after the Buddha's time, Buddhism changed quite dramatically, and especially when kings began to patronize Buddhism. Once the kings began to patronize Buddhism, you can say, strictly speaking, it's normal Buddhism of the Buddha. It's the Buddhism of the king. Because the king becomes the head of the Sangha, if you like. So, in other words, what's right, what's wrong in the end would be the king's decision. And this happens in China, in Korea, in Japan. And the history of it is all very clear. So this is where the monks have no choice but to obey the king, especially those days when the kings and the emperors, they had absolute power. And if you study the history of Buddhism in China, you will see Buddhism prospered greatly and also suffered greatly under the emperors, starting from the Ming dynasty, where the emperor, who was previously a monk, he banned the Vinaya, so he banned ordination. So you can imagine the monks, or rather the Buddhists, could not ordain, could not become monks. So of course, the Chinese Buddhists of those days were wise enough, so they were inspired enough. So some of them went before Buddha images and declared before the image, said, okay, from now on, I'm going to be a monk. So in other words, they became monks in fact. De facto monks were not de jure monks, so to speak. So this kind of situation happened when Buddhism faced such great difficulty. Unfortunately, there was no deus ex machina here to help those monks there. So they introduced things like bodhisattva vows and so on to help them practice the Vinaya and the life of the monk that they want to do. And this went on like that. In other words, the monks have to play many roles in the imperial system. They were sent overseas by the emperor as ambassadors, as teachers to other courts and so on. During the Tang dynasty, lots of monks, for example, were cultural ambassadors. They went to Japan, to the courts of Japan, to bring Chinese culture over there. Even tea was introduced to Buddhist contacts and so on. So you find this rich culture growing, but at a great cost to the spirituality of Buddhism in those days. So the point here is that when the Sangha gets involved with the world, there is always a great cost. So even today, most monks and nuns know very well this cost. And if they know this sutta, of course, they know very well what they should do, what they should not do. And as lay people, our task, of course, is to understand the role of the monks and the nuns. As renunciants, they have renounced the world. If they have renounced the world, it means they are going to focus on cultivating their minds. They are going to, if possible, attain awakening in this life itself. In the meantime, they are going to live lives of peace and an example to us, so that just by looking at them, we feel peaceful. That's the greatest advertisement that early Buddhism ever had. There was no talking, no other public acclamation. By the mere calm presence of the monk, like Asaji. One of the most beautiful sights is to see a monk, a calm and peaceful monk, walking in the morning, like cool and quiet in the morning, with his arms bowed, bareheaded, barefoot, shoulders both covered, totally dependent on the laity for food, totally without any economic security, no social security either, very insecure socially, but spiritually secure. When Sariputta sees such a monk as Asaji, he was inspired. That is what is the heart and spirit of Buddhism. That is the heart of renunciation, which we should remember. And of course, as lay people, we're not renunciants, not all the time though, but once we sit peacefully, close our eyes, let go of our five senses, we are renouncing the world. The world are the five senses. So we let go of the five senses temporarily, we focus on the mind, and even then we gently let go of the mind as we can. So meditation is a kind of renunciation. It is our becoming a monk for the time being. This is nothing new. It's found in the commentary to the M10, it is Satipatthana Sutta, where the Buddha says monks and then talks about the sutta. The word monks there refers to the meditator. When the meditator gets to a deep, calm state, especially jhana, the meditator has attained bhikkhu bhava, the state of a monk. Not not monkhood, but monkness, if you like. So, in other words, even a layperson, even a married layperson, can attain that state temporarily in meditation. So we don't have to become monks and nuns to attain awakening, in other words. And elsewhere, a number of suttas, the Buddha has said, if a layperson meditates and attains awakening, and a monk attains awakening, it is the same awakening. There is no difference. It's not that a monk's awakening is better than a layman's awakening. Stream winning is stream winning, arahathood is arahathood. Even lay people can, although it is very rare, attain arahathood. There are records in the sutta where lay people do attain arahathood too. Of course, there are certain difficulties that attend this kind of situation, but it does happen. More often, lay people will become stream winners. That is why we are often reminded to attain in this life, at least to attain stream winning, so that we do not fall into the subhuman states. Okay, so we end the sutta here. Let's close with a short reflection. The Buddha's teaching is still with us today, so all we need is just to either look into the suttas or simply close our eyes and follow our breath. Feel the peace. The Buddha's teaching is best experienced through the peacefulness of our body and our minds. And this is still possible today. Reflecting in this way is very good karma. By this good karma and various other good karma, including our faith in the three jewels, may we be blessed with the courage and wisdom to attain at least stream winning in this life itself. By the same token, through the power of the three jewels, let us send out our loving kindness to all those people who have been kind and helpful to us. May they be well, may they be happy. And to our loved ones and friends, may they be well and happy. And let us send out our loving kindness to all the beings here, and to all the people here, that they may be well and happy too. And finally, to all those people who are practicing the Dharma, seeking the Dharma, and those whom the Dharma have not touched, they may see the Dharma in this life itself. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.